Welcome to Hannity. Now, tonight we have a number of major breaking news stories. We will cover them all, including another insane anti-Trump conspiracy theory by Congressman, well, the cowardly Schiff himself. Now, a huge development tonight in the Mueller witch hunt. Also, an update on the massive college admissions scandal. And we'll continue our Hannity watch on the radical 2020 Democrats that would like to be president, with an investigation into Beto Bozo, Robert Francis O'Rourke, from the ground in his home state of Texas. But first, we get started with our roundup of this week's worst moments from the radical Democratic hopefuls for president, something the mainstream media we know they will never do. Now, it's only Tuesday, but the dozen far-left candidates running to replace President Trump are getting off to a rough start. Now, take, for example, Senator Elizabeth Warren and Senator Kirsten Gillibrand. They don't like that President Trump was able to successfully select two originalist Supreme Court justices. So now they want to get rid of the Supreme Court as we have it currently configured. Both senators told Politico that they're open to increasing the amount of Supreme Court justices. This would give them the ability to stack the court with far-left activist justices, thereby leaving the third co-equal branch of government, well, fairly powerless, constantly under the thumb of the executive branch. This is beyond unethical. It is unconstitutional. It is a clear power grab. But what else do we expect from Elizabeth Warren? She's been rigging the system for years, getting ahead by lying about her ancestry. And let's not forget about Cory Spartacus Booker. He's also taking a brave stand against the scary Supreme Court. Watch this.
Eric Holder, the former AG, is talking about expanding the number of people in the United States Supreme Court beyond 9 to get more progressives on there. Where are you on that?
I think we need to fix the Supreme Court. I think they stole a Supreme Court seat.
Can we keep it at 9? Should we keep it at 9?
I think I would like to start exploring a lot of options, and we should have a national conversation. Term limits for Supreme Court justices might be one thing, to give every president the ability to choose 3. We have people holding on to those seats in ways that I don't think is necessarily healthy.
You may want to note that Spartacus, he wasn't demanding term limits for his own position as a U.S. senator. Now, just the Supreme Court where Kavanaugh, Gorsuch, and Clarence Thomas preside. Now, of course, this is part of a classic far-left tactic. When you can't win an election based on ideas and policy at the ballot box, they just go to rigging the system, which is why Elizabeth Warren is vowing to dismantle, well, the very way we even elect a president. Doesn't work in her favor. Take a look.
My view is that every vote matters. And the way we can make that happen is that we can have national voting, and that means get rid of the Electoral College and every vote.
Sure, let's let New York, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Illinois, and California determine every president. You see, she doesn't want every vote to count. In other words, she wants to ignore all of the states in the middle of the country. The red states, of course. No more Electoral College, no more Supreme Court as we know it, checks and balances thrown to the wind. But, of course, if Democrats get their way, well, third trimester abortion, including infanticide during and after birth, well, that would be perfectly legal and readily available. Sadly, they're fighting for that. It will protect infanticide seemingly above all else. Naturally, this includes Beto, Bozo, Robert Francis O'Rourke. Let's take a look.
Are you for or against third trimester abortions?
So the question is about abortion and reproductive rights. And my answer to you is that should be a decision that the woman makes about her own body. I trust her, but that's my answer.
First, we'll deliver the baby, the governor of the Commonwealth of Virginia said, and we'll make sure the baby's comfortable. Then we'll let the mother decide. Unbelievable. And they called Trump immoral and every other name in the book. And they told you that Justice Kavanaugh was a monster, but almost every Democrat now running for president cheers for this issue of infanticide. Think about that. Now, meanwhile, they try to shame conservatives for what? Wanting border security? Wanting to stop drugs from crossing our border? Controlled immigration? On Monday, Senator Gillibrand said there's no such thing as an illegal human. Take a look.
Immigration is not a security issue. It is an economic and a humanitarian and a family issue. So there is no such thing as an illegal human.
Beto wants to get rid of all walls on the southern border. Gillibrand wants open borders, no walls, no checks, no nothing. And she even wants to abolish immigration and customs enforcement. And that's not all. She's promising to pay for an influx of illegal immigrants through the Green New Deal. You know, the one that promises to turn America into a socialist utopia and take away all your fears, and the government will control the means of production, like in energy and health care. Estimated cost as high as $94 trillion in the process in 10 years. And keep in mind, our entire federal budget last year was roughly $4 trillion. Democrats, they say we don't have to worry about the costs. They want to worry about the planet not being burned up in 12 years. They want government-run health care, government-paid-for higher education for all, government-paid-for vacations, family leave, sponsored healthy food. Government healthy food, okay. Government monthly income for everybody, whether you're willing or unwilling to work. And government-forced building renovation, every building in the country, each and every building for energy efficiency. And, of course, the end of all fossil fuels and cows and planes in 10 years. And Gillibrand supports that. Okay, so does Elizabeth Warren. Take a look.
When you take a look at the Green New Deal, understand this is about building the infrastructure for the 21st century, for a sustainable world.
All right, at the same town hall, Warren proposed over $100 trillion in new spending. $100 trillion. That's $94 trillion more dollars than the entire 2018 federal budget. The Green New Deal is insane and would guarantee poverty and a dying country and economy. Now, nearly every 2020 Democrat supports it, including Spartacus. And despite supporting the biggest socialist takeover in the history of Earth, Senator Spartacus wants you to know that he's not a socialist. Well, what do you call it then? Take a look.
I am for capitalism. I'm tired of companies engaging in socialism, where they outsource,
okay, all right,
their costs. They outsource their costs.
I know, that's a good rhetorical flirt.
I am not a socialist.
We've got people in the party who are.
I am a Democrat. I believe in fundamental democratic principles.
Even Matthews is laughing. Now, Booker's a perfect representation of what is a radical socialist extreme Democrat, and this entire field for that matter. This party now has become so far left, even liberal business people, Andrew Yang, for example, is gaining traction for promising to give every American $1,000 each and every month, doubling our federal budget in the process. And tonight, the field of far left candidates is about to grow even more crowded. According to the Wall Street Journal, well, creepy, crazy Uncle Joe Biden is telling supporters he plans on running. We'll have more on that later. But first, we do have some good news. Our Hannity watch on the Mueller witch hunt. Another top prosecutor is reportedly leaving the special counsel's investigation. Now, this comes after so-called pit bull Andrew Weissmann announced his resignation a few days ago. This is yet another sign that the investigation, hopefully, finally, is almost over. And according to reports, many Republicans and those in the administration, well, they're looking forward to Mueller's findings. Meanwhile, Democrats, they now seem very anxious. That's because Trump-Russia collusion was, is, and forever will be a hoax. And if Mueller is a decent, honest man with reverence for our laws, Constitution, well, the absurd collusion narrative will be put to rest once and for all. But we know that's not going to happen because the biggest liar in Congress and leaker himself, the cowardly Schiff, who won't come on this program. I've offered him 4 hours, 3 hours of radio, 1 hour of TV, and he won't take us up on our offer. Well, he's been spreading conspiracy theories about Russia and Trump for eternity now. And now he'll use the platform as the House Intel chair in order to malign the president with endless McCarthy-esque investigations. And recently, Schiff told NBC News that the counterintelligence investigation into the Trump campaign is important because, quote, it goes to a present threat to our national security, whether the president and anybody around him are compromised by a foreign power. Okay, well, a sitting congressman, chair of the House Intel Committee, recklessly pushing a conspiracy theory that a foreign government is controlling our country without evidence? He should be ashamed of himself, but of course he's not. Like most Democrats, their unrelenting hatred 24/7 for President Trump, that overrules all common decency, logic, common sense. Schiff and other Democrats, they want the president to fail, even if that means America will fail in the process.